Breaking 1 minute ago, Prince William gave a second speech, and this time it changed everything. Not only for the monarchy, not just for the government, but for the future of Britain itself. This wasn't a ceremonial message. This wasn't a follow-up out of obligation. It was a calculated move, a direct public challenge to the incumbent government. It is being called by insiders as the most explosive royal statement in modern history. The warning that was ignored, what most people don't know, is that the second speech wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't off the cuff. It was planned. And not just weeks ago. It had been planned 6 months in advance, in secret. According to multiple palace sources, Prince William began preparing this moment after the government quietly cut veteran housing grants by £42 million in last year's autumn budget, a decision made with zero press coverage, but not unnoticed by the future king. That is when it started. Private meetings, silent tours of shelters, sewn-on conversations with veterans and their families. Behind closed doors, William prepared a response, less of a speech, more of a message. Zone royal aide described it thus. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was drawing a line, not just between him and the government, but between two visions of what Britain is supposed to be. And then came the first bombshell 3 weeks before the Manchester speech. Kensington Palace formally notified Downing Street that the Prince would attend the Veterans event and would be making personal remarks. That language, personal remarks, wasn't random. It was a warning, according to communications obtained by Storm Brief through a leak. William's team gave the government an overview of key talking points 48 hours in advance. One of those points. Quote, the state's responsibility to those who have served it, especially when that responsibility is visibly unmet. That is not just a warning, that is a red flag. And then, well, nothing happened. No call from number 10, no adjustment in the agenda, no briefing to ministers, just silence. According to sources inside Downing Street, Communications Director Mark Dempsey advised the Prime Minister to hold back, saying, if we react, we make it a bigger story. If we stay silent, it will pass. But not everyone agreed. Labour strategy chief Amanda Bristow was less diplomatic in a memo that said, we are walking into a trap. The palace is telegraphing a hit. If William goes hard and we respond too late, we lose control of the narrative. That memo was marked urgent. It was delivered personally to Starmer, and according to 2 aides who were in the room, he dismissed it. His words, he won't go that far, he's not allowed to, but Prince William did go that far. And then he went further. In part 3, we'll reveal when exactly Starmer knew he'd gone wrong and what he said in private just before the first statement went public. Aides say his reaction shocked even his closest advisors. Lone source described it as the beginning of the end. The fallout immediate, ruthless. Global MPs are resigning, demonstrations are erupting, and, in a move that stunned 2 continents, King Charles himself has broken royal protocol. Again, but what you are about to hear is what the mainstream media won't tell you. Because behind that speech was a series of secret meetings, leaked documents, and a growing divide inside the royal family itself. What Prince William said, and what happened next may have just changed the future of Britain forever. This is Storm Brief. Subscribe now. Because what happens over the next 3 days will either make or break the government. And you need to know the truth. This is part 1, the speech that wasn't meant to happen. It happened at exactly 10:14 this morning in Manchester. The event was low. Kia Community Forum for Veterans hosted by the Royal Foundation. No media, no live stream, no fanfare. And yet, within 3 minutes, a leaked clip from inside the building had already exploded across social media. It garnered 47 million views by noontime. In the evening, the country was on fire. Standing before 20 veterans was Prince William. Some were visibly emotional, some homeless, a few holding service medals in shaking hands. And then William stood. No notes, no teleprompter, just a voice that would silence every room in Westminster. He said, we cannot call ourselves a just society when those who fought for it are sleeping on concrete. And we cannot say that we are leaders if we are afraid to speak the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. He flushed. Then came the line that shook the nation. I was warned last week not to speak again. I was told my words were escalating a constitutional crisis, but silence is not neutrality. Silence is complicity. 38 seconds, that's all it took. And Westminster exploded. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't off script. It was deliberate. It was planned. And it was approved. Not just by his advisors, but by someone higher. The palace didn't apologize. They didn't soften the message. They put the whole speech's transcript online. The caption merely said, "We stand by those who serve. We will not be silent when they are discarded." And with that, the panic began. MPs scrambled to respond, cabinet ministers demanded an explanation, and Downing Street released a short but firm statement. This was an unhelpful and inappropriate intervention in matters reserved for elected government. But that was not all. Labour backbenchers were privately seething within 90 minutes. One message to a journalist read, "This is the second time in 2 weeks. He's lost the room. The story belongs to William now." But here is the truth. Nobody in government wants to admit how about this speech. It wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't written last night. It wasn't a reaction. It was months in the making. And in part 2, we'll show you the insider memos, the secret briefings, and the warning that Starmer was given and ignored. A warning that may cost him everything. The moment Starmer knew he'd lost the room, it was 11:07 a.m., just under an hour after Prince William's speech went live. It was full lockdown mode in Downing Street. Phones ringing non-stop, screens glowing with Twitter trends. Private WhatsApp groups were flooded with one word: disaster. Inside number 10, Keir Starmer was in a closed-door meeting with senior communications staff and cabinet advisors. The atmosphere was described as tense, silent, until the press secretary came in holding a phone. She didn't say a word. She simply turned the screen towards Starmer. It showed the real-time Twitter dashboard. At the top, trending worldwide, number West End with William trending second. Number Starmer disrespects vets. The Prime Minister stared at the screen. Nobody said a word. And then he spoke. He really did it. He actually F-fying did it. A senior aide said, speaking anonymously, that Starmer looked like he'd seen a ghost. Another said he started pacing and whispering to himself, trying to figure out how to respond, or if they even should. But the damage was already spreading. Labour MPs were being mobbed by reporters. Veterans groups were releasing public statements in support of William. Even The Sunday, which had been broadly neutral, ran a banner headline by noon: "The Prince who spoke for the people." The data from the pollsters began to pour in thick and fast. Within 2 hours of the speech, 67% of the respondents agreed with Prince William's message. 82% of veterans said the Prince was speaking for them. Only 21% supported the decision of Downing Street to call it inappropriate. Yet Starmer still hesitated. According to leaked text messages between senior Labour staff, 2 camps formed instantly. One group pushed for silence, hoping to ride it out. The other group begged Starmer to issue a neutral response that would praise veterans without attacking William. But Starmer, he opted for a third way, the worst one. He doubled down. "We don't bend to unelected influence," he reportedly said. "This is a democracy. He doesn't get to hijack public policy." By 12:34 p.m, Starmer had signed off on a full public statement. The final version read, "In the United Kingdom, it is Parliament that sets national priorities, not royalty. While we welcome input from all sectors of society, elected government must remain independent and free from inherited influence." The backlash was instantaneous. Royal watchers called it the most direct challenge to the monarchy since 1997. Veterans charities began pulling out of joint events with Labour ministers and the media. They pounced. BBC, Sky, LBC, GB News, all live, all breaking, all boiling. But the worst part, he still didn't know about the second leak, because just minutes after Starmer's statement went live, a senior palace source leaked a private voicemail left on William's office line 2 days earlier from Downing Street. In part 4, you'll hear what that voicemail said, why it is being called the most damaging misstep in Starmer's career, and how it proves he knew exactly what William was going to say at 12:52 p.m, just 18 minutes after Keir Starmer's public statement dropped. A leak hit the press that sent Westminster into full-blown panic mode. This wasn't another tweet. This wasn't another opinion poll. This was a bombshell. a private voicemail from a senior Downing Street advisor, which had been left on the direct line to Prince William's office at Kensington Palace, had been leaked, and the contents devastating. The voicemail, which two different royal correspondents confirmed as authentic, was dated 2 days before the Manchester event. Here is what it said. We value His Royal Highness's passion, but we ask that he show restraint with any public remarks about the veterans' situation. With tensions high in Parliament and several policy announcements due this week, we ask that he avoid commentary that may be construed as political interference. The voice is widely believed to be that of Communications Director Mark Dempsey, a long-time Labour media strategist. But here is the problem. Starmer had just told the world that William had blindsided the government, that he had hijacked policy, that he was intervening without prior warning. And now this voicemail proved the exact opposite. They knew they were warned, they replied. They asked him to remain silent, and when he didn't, they attacked him anyway. That was the moment, according to one palace insider, when we realised this was war. The leak went viral in minutes. Newsrooms played the transcript on continuous repeat. Commentators from both sides of the aisle condemned the hypocrisy. Former Defence Minister Johnny Mercer tweeted, "William was clear, respectful, and absolutely right. Labour tried to silence him. Now they're trying to punish him for speaking the truth." The public feeling turned around hard and fast by 2 p.m. Storm brief polling showed 78% of voters now believed William had acted within his rights. 62% said Starmer's response was disrespectful. And among voters over 55, Starmer's approval had dropped 12 points in 24 hours. But it didn't stop there, because the leak had ripple effects, not just in public opinion, but within Parliament itself. By 3:15 p.m, 2 junior ministers submitted letters of resignation. The first is a former Royal Navy officer. The second, a mental health minister who had worked on veteran outreach. Their words were incisive, well-defined, and directly pointed at Starmer. One read, "I cannot, in good conscience, remain part of a government that attacks those who defend the voiceless." But the most chilling quote came from a backbench MP who spoke anonymously to Storm Brief. He said he knew William would speak. He was trying to silence him, and when that failed, he tried to smear him. That is not leadership. That's fear, and fear was spreading fast. Because in Part 5, we'll reveal the private reaction of the royal family to the voicemail leak, the crisis meeting that followed at Buckingham Palace, and the moment King Charles reportedly said, "Enough, if they want war, they'll get it." The King draws a line by 4 p.m, the walls of Westminster were shaking. But what the public didn't see, at least, not yet, was the internal storm gathering across town. Because while the media was dissecting the voicemail that had been leaked and ministers were falling like dominoes, Buckingham Palace was holding an emergency meeting, and it wasn't symbolic. Sources say the King personally called in the foremost senior constitutional advisers, along with private secretaries representing both William and the Queen consort. The topic, how far is too far? The royal family has spent decades avoiding political interference with great care. But insiders say when the voicemail leak broke, everything changed. One palace staffer characterised King Charles as visibly shaken. Another used a different word, furious. According to a source in the room, Charles opened the meeting with a single sentence. "They tried to humiliate my son for defending those who can't speak for themselves." What transpired over the next 2 hours was high-level discussion, reportedly the most politically charged royal meeting since the death of Princess Diana. Among the key questions raised are, has this government breached constitutional protocol in attempting to silence a royal heir? Is a public response from the Crown necessary or dangerous? And if William speaks again, should the King endorse it? The answer by the end of the meeting was clear. At 5:52 p.m, the palace released a short, carefully worded statement, just 4 lines long, but it made headlines around the world. Here is what it said. His Majesty the King is proud of his son's commitment to service to veterans and to the truth. At a time of uncertainty, leadership requires courage. The royal household stands by those who speak with integrity. No further comment will be made. They didn't name Starmer. They didn't need to. The message was clear. The King was supporting William, and the royal family was closing ranks. News anchors were shocked. Veterans groups began to organise rallies in support, and leaders from foreign countries, Canada to Australia, chimed in with praise for William's bravery and Charles's resolve. But inside Downing Street, the mood had turned from panic to desperation, because Charles didn't just defend William, he made it clear this is no longer just about a speech. This is about legacy. As one long-serving palace aide put it, the monarchy believes this is a defining moment, not just for William, but for the crown. They are done staying silent, and if Charles spoke today, William will speak again, and he will. In part 6, we reveal what William's team is planning next, including a televised address already in the works and the historic location he may deliver it from. If it goes ahead, it would be the first time in 200 years that a royal heir speaks publicly without government coordination. The speech that could rewrite history. It is now just past 6 p.m. across Britain. The streets are filling with protesters. Resignation letters are piling up across Parliament and inside Kensington Palace. Something extraordinary is happening because sources close to Prince William confirm he is not done speaking. In fact, a third public address is already in development. If it goes ahead, it could be the most consequential speech by a royal in over 2 centuries. What we know follows. The planning began more than a week ago before the Manchester event, but after the backlash from Starmer, after the voicemail leaked, and following King Charles' public endorsement, William wants to go further. According to 2 senior aides, his next address will not be off the cuff, it will not be at a community centre, and it will not be quiet. It will be broadcast, pre-recorded, professionally filmed, and delivered from a location chosen for maximum impact. The top contender, the steps of St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle, the same hall where Queen Elizabeth II addressed the nation after COVID's darkest days, the same place William and Harry stood side by side. One last time, why St. George's Hall? Symbolism, it is royal, it is sacred, it is historic, and it tells the world this is not just a moment, this is a movement. One advisor told Stormbrief, William has made a decision. He believes the crown can no longer remain silent while veterans sleep on the street. He is ready to speak as a father, as a former serviceman, and as a future king. But that is not all. Our sources also verify that Princess Catherine has been playing a critically important role behind the scenes, reviewing speech drafts, consulting with advisors, even personally calling advocacy groups to collect stories from military families. She is not just supporting William, she is urging him on, as one palace official said. She told him silence is no longer noble, it is harmful. And their children will one day ask what they did when Britain began to forget its own. This is no longer a royal versus politician moment. This is a cultural reckoning, and it is working. Thousands have rallied outside Parliament with banners that read, William speaks for us. Fundraisers for homeless veterans have surged 600% since the speech, and an emergency YouGov poll shows that 72% of voters now trust Prince William more than the Prime Minister. Behind the scenes, panic is rising, especially inside Labour HQ. According to sources, William's forthcoming speech might directly attack the government's policy on housing, asylum spending, and call for accountability in Parliament. And what if so? Starmer may not survive the week. In part 7, we reveal how Labour's leadership team is fracturing in real time, with secret leadership WhatsApp groups, mass cabinet walkouts, and one veteran MP warning if William speaks again, we may not have a government left by Friday. Labour implodes behind closed doors. It is after 7 p.m. in London. Outside, thousands gather in Parliament Square. Inside, it is chaotic on Downing Street. And here is what nobody in the government wants to admit. This isn't just a PR disaster anymore. It is a leadership collapse in real time. Since Prince William's second speech, since the voicemail leak, and since the King's public support, Labour has been bleeding from the inside. Fast at 3:15 p.m, the first resignation dropped. A junior housing minister, formerly a military family liaison, resigned with the simple, brutal line, I will not stand with those who attack the crown to cover their own failures. 2 hours later, Minister for Mental Health Ellie Grant followed her reason. My job is to advocate for the vulnerable, not to attack those who already are. But the real blow came at 6:42 p.m. when a senior shadow cabinet member, known to be part of Starmer's core campaign team, resigned on live television. Viewers were shocked. Reporters were speechless. She then looked straight into the camera and said, "This is not the Labour Party I fought for. This is not leadership. This is retreat disguised as arrogance, and I won't be a part of it." 5 more resignations were announced by the end of the hour, not junior names, not unknowns. Frontline figures including the Defence Policy Minister, a liaison with the Veterans Affairs, the Deputy Chief Whip, and 2 constituency chairs from safe Labour seats. Why? Because the numbers are collapsing. Internal polling shared exclusively with Storm Brief reveals that Labour drops 12 points in 3 days in 7 key constituencies. They are now polling behind Reform UK among veterans and military families. Support has fallen from 62 to 19%. But here is the real kicker. At 7:12 p.m, a leaked screenshot from a private Labour WhatsApp group emerged. What was the name of that group post Starmer strategy? The members, 18 sitting MPs, 6 party advisors, 3 probable leadership contenders, and in one message, written just minutes before the leak, we need to talk about Wes, Angela and Rachel. If William speaks again, we may not survive the weekend. The message refers to Wes streeting Shadow Health Secretary Angela Rayner, Deputy Leader Rachel Reeves, Shadow Chancellor in other words. They're already planning for who replaces Starmer, and Starmer knows it. One aide described him as paranoid, cornered and lashing out. Another said, he keeps saying he was defending democracy, but everybody around him knows he committed political suicide. And it's not just insiders who see the writing on the wall. Nigel Farage is holding a rally in Birmingham tonight. And what he says there, according to leaked remarks, could be the final blow to Labour's national support. In Part 8, we take you inside the Farage rally, where 8,000 people are chanting William's name, and explain how Reform UK is suddenly a serious contender for government. Farage seizes the moment while Westminster burns. A different kind of fire spreads across the country. It is just past 8 p.m. in Birmingham, and Nigel Farage has just taken the stage. The venue, packed convention centre, sold out hours in advance. The crowd, over 8,000 strong, made up of veterans, small business owners and disillusioned lifelong Labour voters. The mood. Electric, and at the centre of this a single name which the leader of Reform UK cannot stop invoking, Prince William. When a royal speaks truth to power, Farage said, pausing to let the crowd quiet, that is not interference, that is leadership. Thunderous applause. Then came the line that would trend on Twitter for the next 24 hours. He speaks for our veterans. He speaks for our families. He speaks for Britain. And when the Prime Minister tries to silence him, he tries to silence us. The chant started slow, then spread like wildfire. William for Britain. William for Britain. Even Farage looked shocked. Let there be no doubt, this was not a conventional political rally. This was a cultural moment, a transfer of moral authority from Parliament to the people, and a royal family that suddenly finds itself more trusted than the government itself. According to live polling conducted during the event, 68% of attendees said that they would vote Reform UK at a general election. 79% said they trusted Prince William more than any sitting MP, and 91% now say the monarchy should speak out on important issues more often. But the biggest number came from outside the building. Within 2 hours of the event being live streamed, the Reform UK website crashed from new member sign-ups, and the donations, more than £440,000, raised in less than 6 hours, their largest single-day haul ever. So what does this mean for Labour? Disaster. In 6 constituencies, 4 in the Midlands, 2 in the North, Reform UK is now polling ahead of Labour, not bound ahead. And Farage isn't slowing down. He concluded his speech with a challenge. If Keir Starmer wants to lecture Prince William on democracy, I'll debate him any day, any time, anywhere. Because the British people have heard enough from cowards, and it is time they heard from someone who's not afraid to speak truth. The crowd roared. What does this tell us? It shows us how the political map is changing. The old rules no longer apply, and the royal family, once bound to silence, has now reignited something deep in the public soul. In part 9, we take you back to Parliament, where a group of senior Labour MPs are preparing to submit a formal letter of no confidence and discuss what happens if Starmer is forced to resign before William even speaks again. The collapse begins. It is now 9:15 p.m. in Westminster. The streets are still crowded. The chants have not stopped, and inside the halls of Parliament, something once unthinkable is happening. Labour MPs are preparing to remove their own leader. Stormbrief can confirm that the letter of no confidence is being drafted in the name of 17 senior Labour backbenchers. It is led by 2 former ministers, and they are planning to submit it by Monday morning. Why? Because by every measure, Keir Starmer has lost control. In the last 36 hours, he has been publicly contradicted by veterans groups. He's lost 9 ministers, including 3 directly linked to defence and housing. His approval rating has dropped 17 points, and now even his most loyal supporters are going silent. The mood is described as toxic inside. Number 10, strategy meetings that used to last 90 minutes now end in 10. Ministers are refusing to appear on media shows, and the aides are leaking like never before. On an advisor told Stormbrief, he still thinks this is about managing optics, but it is too late. This isn't just a messaging problem, it is a moral failure, and the party knows it. But here is the thing, the letter of no confidence. It is not just about Starmer's leadership. It includes a direct reference to Prince William's speech, and the wording is brutal. This decision by the Prime Minister to publicly discredit a royal advocate for veterans has caused irreversible harm to this government's credibility, values and electoral viability. Let that sink in. Members of Starmer's own party are now saying he picked a fight with the wrong man. And it gets worse. Labour's campaign funders, including several who are major backers in marginal seats, are reportedly threatening to withhold donations unless there is a leadership change. Unknown donor issued a statement tonight. When the Crown speaks with compassion and the government responds with contempt, we know who we stand with. Not one more pound until leadership reflects the people it claims to serve. This has never happened before. Not like this. Not this fast. The only recent parallel, the fall of Liz Truss, and even that took weeks. But Starmer, he may not survive the weekend, because tomorrow morning Prince William is expected to meet with his communications team, and insiders believe he is ready to go public again. As one source stated rather succinctly, if Starmer hasn't resigned before William speaks again, he will be forced out after. And so we're left with a question that hangs over the nation like a thundercloud. Will the Prime Minister resign before he is removed, or will he await the future king to complete the task he started? In part 10, the final part, we reveal what is reportedly in William's third speech, why King Charles is torn over what comes next, and how this crisis could forever change the balance between Parliament and the Crown. A new era begins. It is just past midnight in London now, and while the capital sleeps, the crisis hasn't ended. In fact, the next 24 hours may reshape British politics forever, because according to multiple palace sources, Prince William's third public statement is no longer a possibility. It is happening, and it has already been recorded. Stormbrief has confirmed that William's team finished filming at St George's Hall in Windsor earlier this evening, the very same place where Queen Elizabeth delivered one of her most solemn national addresses, a place which was marked for a royal response during times of war, pandemic and national mourning. And now it will host something Britain hasn't seen in over 200 years, a direct address to the British people by a future monarch without government oversight. So what will he say? The speech, according to insiders who've seen the transcript, contains 3 key themes. Veterans and national honour. William will reaffirm the nation's duty to those who served. He will reference personal stories, people he has spoken with directly, names, faces, forgotten lives. Moral leadership. He will speak to the need for truth above power, a clear rebuke of recent government attacks. He will not name the Prime Minister, but the implication is unavoidable. A new standard, and this is the part that could change everything. William is likely to call for renewed expectations of public service, including from all leaders, elected or otherwise. If those who serve can give everything, he reportedly says, then those who govern must serve with equal devotion. That is not a soundbite. That is a challenge. One that will echo through every party, every chamber, every newsroom. And here is the punchline no one saw coming. King Charles is letting it happen. Earlier today, senior advisers urged the King to block or delay the broadcast, fearing it could deepen constitutional tensions. But Charles refused. He reportedly told aides, a father must stand with his son and a king must stand with the truth. In a statement tonight, the palace confirmed the broadcast will air at 6 p.m. tomorrow night, aired simultaneously on BBC One, ITV and streamed globally. The government has not commented. Starmer's office declined to comment, and the opposition is sharpening their knives. As of now, the no confidence letter has been signed by 31 Labour MPs. Reform UK is polling ahead of Labour in 9 constituencies and trending worldwide. Number William speaks for us. So here we are, a Prime Minister on the edge, a royal family that does not keep quiet, and a future king stepping into a role that no heir has ever played before. This is no longer just a story of one speech. It is a story of one country's inquiry. Whom can we trust now, Parliament, or the prince who broke centuries of silence to speak for those forgotten? The answer can come in just a few hours. You've been watching Storm Brief, where the truth doesn't come in press releases. It comes in moments like these. So we leave you with this question, which occurs first: Starmer resigns, Parliament revolts, or Britain embarks on a new chapter led not from Downing Street, but from Windsor. We're living history. And the next 24 hours could change everything. Subscribe to Storm Brief now, because tomorrow we'll be here first again.